Welcome to the 1,000-kilometer review of the Gotway Monster V3. Now, if you haven't seen the previous ones, we've got the unboxing and the range test, the 250-kilometer, the 650-kilometer reviews that have preceded this very review. So if you haven't seen those, go back and watch them. I'll put the links below in the description. This is basically a follow-on of the whole series, where we do a series of 4 in-depth videos. This is just finalising it, finishing it off, conclusion. Have we had any issues with this machine? How's it performed? Now, nothing wrong with it whatsoever. So we've had no faults, nothing. And this thing has been put through its paces. So it stood up to the 1,000-kilometer test, just slightly over actually. And it's performed fine. The biggest gripe would be that it doesn't come with a mudguard, and it hasn't got a mudguard. There are aftermarket ones you can print, so 3D printed ones. But we did fix the MSX mudguard to it, which means grimacing slightly and drilling through the back with tiny little pilot holes, I must say. They could easily be filled if you removed it, but you do have to drill through nonetheless, right around that little outer edge of the plastic shell. So it's a rear light unit essentially, which isn't so bad because you can actually replace the rear light unit on its own. We do sell that at speedyfeet.co.uk if you need them. So that solved that problem. It's just enough to cover the water spray that comes up from this massive 22-inch wheel. You've heard me say it before, this thing on the road is just like a Bentley. It's just lovely, or a Rolls Royce. You just stand on it, I'll do mile after mile after mile. So it's a 2,400 watt-hour battery in here. It is really heavy, really cumbersome. It has actually got a shut-off switch underneath the handle. I'm not sure over long use, I mean this is long use, it's 1,000 kilometers, but taking all the weight, what I have been doing is putting my finger here either side of the button and using the middle fingers to press the button. So I'm bearing some weight off of the micro switch because it feels like it's going to be way too heavy for it, just to lengthen it out. If you've got one of these or you're thinking of getting one, bring that as a general practice. You just make sure you're bearing some weight on the handle itself and then activate the micro switch if you want to use that functionality, just to make it last a little bit longer. The front headlight has worked flawlessly. It's charged fine. I don't use USB port, but it's still working. That's tested, it's fine. The speakers on this thing are incredibly loud. The see-through light where it says Monster, so see-through panel where it says Monster, I think that just looks absolutely brilliant when it's on standby and sat there waiting to go. The foot plates haven't really worn down that much. The tyre hasn't worn down over 1,000 kilometers. I've come off it at least twice, fairly heavy. One thing I did find is not unique to this wheel at all, as I was going around a berm, so I built up, if you know what a berm is, essentially like that. I was going around that, and I must have hit over the 45-degree angle because it just turned off on me. And so it took a smash into the ground and sort of just nubbed that up a bit, but didn't break anything. I was amazed. So that's pretty cool. So a couple of falls, probably 2 or 3, it slammed into the ground, and I've had no breaks, nothing like that. Was reports of loose axle nuts on the foot plates, so where the foot plate pillars run down. Not had that at all. You've seen me, I've dropped this thing off 4 foot, 5 foot drop, downstairs, stairs, off curbs, and it's done 1,000 kilometers. And they're not loose, and there's been no issue. So I've done no maintenance on this at all. I've had no punctures or anything during that time. The valve's very accessible on that note. So if you want to just pump up the tyre, it's really accessible. You just need a bendy pump, basically, not a solid rigid thing. You need a bendy thing to get it in there. It's a car valve tyre style fitting, and it's just performed fine. So its characteristics are, essentially, you can ride this anywhere you like. Braking distance, because of its weight plus rider, is slower in the same way as its acceleration is. So to get this thing going, you really need to lean into it. Now, with all my kit on, I must be about 90 kilograms. So actually leaning right forward to get the thing to move, it's like, come on. But once it gets up to speed, you just stand there and hardly leaning forward at all, and just lovely, just rides along. And so the tyre absorbs bumps off-road. And I've taken this thing absolutely everywhere. It's king of the road, and it's king of the fire trails, I would say. If you want to do rooted climbs, not for you. If you need to store it away in a little locker, it's not going to be for you, is it? But in many other areas, it's just a pure riding machine. No jumping around and tricks and things like that. This is going to be absolute epic commuting tool. It's just a brilliant machine, basically. They've done a couple of updates. One update, which involves another update, but it's to do with this update, which is to put a double headlight unit in. So that's a change of board, control board, and a change of the front here with a dual headlight, which are the ones we stock now. If you look at the pictures on speedyfeet.co.uk, you'll see that it's got the dual headlight. I've had no issues with this whatsoever. I've been using it at night time and everything. So yeah, no real issues there. But there's a dual headlight now. They've done a tweak. It's still the V3, still called the V3. It's like a V3.2. Who knows? But yeah, so they got a dual headlight in there. But other than that, to report. If you've got any questions, ask them below and I'll try and answer them for you, because I've ridden this thing. I've mentioned all the previous stuff. As I say, go and watch the review videos if you haven't already. There's nothing much more to say. It hasn't broke. The shell pieces haven't fallen apart. I've had no mechanical errors with it at all. And I haven't had to do any maintenance, and it's just worked flawlessly, and it still is. Worth mentioning, the seat. So you can actually get a seat for this. We use this on a 1,000 miler. In fact, it's the very same one is used on the 1,000 miler, which had the Gen 1. I rode this. It still fits. It's the same fitting style, and that's been ridden to over 1,000 miles, and it's done 1,000 kilometers, and it looks like new. I mean, you wouldn't know that's been used. So very, very sturdy. It's a bit more than just a block of foam. It is very tough stuff. And so I've taken it from the Generation 1 and put it on the Generation 3 and just carried on with it. But a word of warning actually with seats is, we've done a little video on this, but just to reiterate again, if you sit down on a wheel, you create a triangulation effect. So you're sat here, and then your legs come down, they bend at the knee and they come down, you lock yourself against the foot plate. Now if you're going along and it cuts off and you're sat down, your knees hit the ground. And because you're in a triangle shape, if you because of the compression against your foot plates, you're actually putting pressure against it, so it's like it's loaded essentially. So trying to remove your feet in emergency is not really going to happen, because it's actually loaded and it's pushing against. There's a certain amount of pressure that you're applying, and so I'd be very wary about sitting down and riding. Loads of people do it. I do it. I ride on this, but every time again I sit down, I'm thinking, I want to do this as little as possible. So I tend to sit down if I take the seat, if I'm doing a really long journey. Short journeys I don't bother. I don't want to carry this thing about. It can be removed and whatever, lost. So very rare I take it, but if I'm going to do a real stonking great journey, it'll go with me. Probably go in the backpack, but you can fit it and ride it. No issues, doesn't get in the way. But I'll only sit down if my back is really hurting or my feet need a rest or something like that. And it's usually only for a couple of minutes and I'm back up again and carrying on. It's possible to stand and sit whilst riding. Just bring your speed down to a reasonable rate. And you want to be, obviously, if you're going to be putting a seat on it, you don't, even an experienced rider, if you've never sat down, don't just go hacking it down the road and then try and sit down whilst you're riding. You'll probably get a wobble on and come off. So you need to practice first to make sure you're absolutely not at it. So yeah, you can get a seat. That is a great little upgrade for it, to be fair. So a seat and a mudguard are a must for this. Out the box, it comes with neither of those. You can get them, they are upgrades. The side pads haven't worn down. Nothing's really worn down on this thing. It's lasted 1,000 kilometers with nothing really negative to say at all. So yeah, can't climb massively steep hills. Well, it can, but it's massive work to do it. So from those aspects, massively steep hills, rocky, rooty trails and things like that, you want to steer clear of those. But for just pure riding on open fire trails or open road, then depending where you live, then this is an absolute king. It's beautiful, it rides lovely. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. So if you've got any questions on this, we do stock it. We stock the 100 volt version as well in the store. So go and check them out. Well worth having a look at. And any questions, let me know below. Don't forget to like this video, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you on the next one, which won't be this, because this series is finished now on this. So this is probably going to be put up for sale imminently. Check the date of this video, because if you're watching this in a year's time, it'll have gone. They don't usually last more than a couple of weeks, the one we finish these review videos. So perform flawlessly. I will see you on the next review, whichever wheel it may be.